Good morning. Happy Taco Tuesday. Welcome on into Let's Bet It. Lauren Javari here with Mark Zinno. Zinno, I haven't seen you all weekend. How are you? How was your weekend?
I
What'd you
know. Well,
do?
I saw you all weekend. All I do is I turn on the tube in Atlanta and there's Lauren Jabbar. It's Lauren Jabbar. It's Lauren Jabbar everywhere you are. I mean, it's like we may as well live together at this point. Every time I'm in my home on the couch, you're there. So, no, it's great to see you. Great to be with
Sorry.
you here. No, it's okay. Listen, hey, you're a rising star, and we support that. So we are all fan faves of LJ here. So no, it's great to be back with you
Oh, you're the
again.
best.
I try. It's going to be a good betting week here. We got some more preseason action coming up, so I'm starting to get back in the groove.
I know. I can't even wait to get it going. Have you been betting a lot of preseason NFL? Because it is hard to be able to kind of cap some of these games unless you watch all of the press
Right.
conferences.
I bet the opener in the Hall of Fame game won and ran away from everything else. Although I think it's interesting. Odds makers have adjusted since so many overs came in week one. They have
So
adjusted
many.
totals and put them up a lot higher. And you might see some regression here. I got my eyes on the Bears and Seattle, two really bad offenses. Remember, starters theoretically are going to play the longest they're going to play this entire preseason in this second preseason of 3 games now. So while you're getting the starters playing on offense, you're also getting the starters playing on defense. And those are two bad offenses in Chicago and Seattle. So maybe an under in that spot.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see if some of these overs continue to hit at the rate that they were hitting over this past weekend. But we do have a lot to get into today. We've been giving out a lot of our futures bets. So we have AFC North Player Props today. Yesterday we broke down the division. Today we're getting into player props. I know I definitely have one, so you want to stay tuned for that. Before that, NBA Morning Radar. We have more KD news because that is all we're talking about in the offseason is Kevin Durant and the possibility of him
Oh,
going to other teams if other teams have enough, you know, players to be able to give up for him. And then we obviously have our better up segment with some MLB action. So let's get right into it. Kevin Durant news. Mark Stein reported that one league executive believes that KD will likely retire more than playing for the Nets again. Then Kevin Durant comes out and says he doesn't plan on retiring anytime soon. He says, I know most people will believe unnamed sources on Twitter, but if it's anyone out there that will listen, I don't plan on retiring anytime soon. Shit is comical at this point. How do you think this situation plays out? Because there's no chance that KD, in the prime of his career, being one of the best players, if not the best player in the NBA, is retiring if he doesn't get traded from the Nets. He's not having a temper tantrum and ruining his career over it.
Lauren, do we not have enough Kevin Durant where are you going fatigue at this point? I mean, honestly, this is like asking a chick where she wants to go to dinner. Like, it's just going to be a never ending saga of no answers that make
No, that's
anybody
good.
happy. So, like, can we just move on? Like, I'm so tired of this. Just pull the damn trigger, Nets, and trade the guy. Or Kevin Durant, just
Yeah.
shut up and make a decision. Either play or don't play. That's it. Like, I mean, we don't need to keep dissecting this 800 ways to Sunday. You don't want to be in Brooklyn? Fine. Nothing's going to fix it? Fine. Then be content to sit out and not play. I don't understand this. Like, it's just really annoying at this point.
There's no way that Kevin Durant retires if he doesn't get traded from the Nets. That's
No, he's not
literally like
retired.
him being a toddler, having a temper tantrum. If I don't get what I want, I'm done. Like, no one's going to ruin their
Take
career for
my
that.
ball and go
Kevin
home.
Durant's in the prime of setting records, doing what he does best. He's playing for the Nets if he doesn't get traded. That's that. And he basically confirmed it on Twitter. But the Kevin Durant saga continues, Zeno. It continues. So we'll see how that plays out. No teams have enough players to be able to trade for a guy like KD at this point. If they
Yeah.
do, what team do you think it would be? Because for a while it was the Suns. Obviously, we're not going to see that.
Right.
How do you think this book plays out and ends in the final chapter?
I mean, Boston really is the only legitimate team that can offer what Brooklyn wants in return, with Jaylen Brown and legitimate other players to round out that roster. So
Yeah.
I don't know that there's another, sort of way that this goes down without somebody coming to the table with the number of assets that the Nets want. I mean, the Nets, the whole thing is teams are like, well, we're just not going to give away that much. We'll wait for the asking price to come down. We'll wait to the trade deadline if we have to for the asking price to come down. But the asking price eventually is going to come down. And Kevin Durant can force that hand by simply saying, I'm sitting and I'm not playing unless I'm traded. I'm pulling the Ben Simmons. I'll see you next year.
Yeah, because right now the Nets want everything and the kitchen sink and the entire kitchen and all the food that's in the fridge right now, including the beer and wine.
Mhm.
So at this point, no teams have enough to be able to get in besides the Boston Celtics. It's going to be interesting how that plays out moving forward. We'll keep you posted right here on Let's Bet It. All right, getting into our Major League Baseball segment, Better Up. We always start with is the trend your friends. I know. I want to make some
Okay.
friends today. I'm feeling a little lonely here in Atlanta. So let's start it out with the Orioles run line. Okay, the Blue Jays 0-9 on the run line in their last 9 games. Are we friending that trend or are we fading it?
We are, because the Orioles are the best run line team in Major League Baseball, hitting at 60% clip. So they're a dog in this spot, obviously. And if they're getting 1.5 now, granted, I would assume. Let me just double check real quick the actual line to see where it is. Oh wow, it's only minus 115. So yeah, I mean, I would take the Orioles plus 1.5 on the run line easily.
We have a friend, baby. We're adding to the group of Let's Bet It people. Brewers versus Dodgers over. The over is 5-1 in the last 6 meetings between these two teams.
Probably not going to friend this one. You're talking about two legitimate pitching staffs full of starting pitchers, and plus Brandon Woodruff is going for the Brewers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that spot. I know the Dodgers have obviously a great offense, but and this is a total that's set at 8. So yeah, I don't know. The Brewers are a little bit soft hitting, so that's another thing that doesn't necessarily make me think this game is going to go over. If you had a different starter matchup for Milwaukee and it wasn't Woodruff or Burns going, I might look a
Yeah.
little bit more into it. But yeah, this would not be a friend that I want.
One friend, one unfriend. Giants 8-0 in their last 8 games as favorites.
I mean, they are playing Arizona, which
Good.
favors them.
Yeah,
I mean, you're talking 8-0 straight up, 8-0 the money line. Do we have any more specifics on this friend? I mean, are they
that's
a
the trend.
Pisces? What is this friend?
8-0 in their last 8 games as favorites. When they're favored in the game, they've won their last 8 games.
Okay. I guess that's a money line play there. I don't know. This feels yucky.
Yeah.
I don't trust either one of these teams in Arizona or San Francisco. So San Francisco, although at 500 or just above 500, trying to keep themselves in the wild card race, doesn't feel like a winner to me. But they're good at home, so I don't know. I just don't got a lot of confidence in this friend.
What about the Braves versus Mets? Nerfy, no runs first inning is 7-0 in the last 7 Braves home games against the NL East, and the Nerfy hit again last night, despite it being a 10-run game for the Atlanta Braves.
It's right. Somebody had this play on the Pickswise website. His name is me. So yeah, I played the Nerfy on this one last night. Anytime Spencer Strider is going, you got to jump on the Nerfy. It's
Yeah.
Taijuan Walker versus Charlie Morton. Morton got banged around in his 2 starts against the Mets, including his last time out against them. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, I don't think you worry about the home run, the long ball in the first inning. It's just a question of how these starters go. Taijuan Walker, also his worst start of the year was his last time out against the Mets. Gave up 8 runs after in an inning plus. So looking for a little redemption. Yeah, I mean, here's the only thing. You had a rain out or a rain delay game that ended really late last night. Um, Teams may not take batting practice today because of that situation. So I mean, it's probably a Nerfy that hits, but I don't know. I'm skeptical.
Yeah, skeptical about it for sure. It's going to be interesting to see how it is. You do have a Nerfy that you do think is going to hit, though. It's the Astros taking on the Chicago White Sox. Tell me more about this one.
Okay, well, this is easy because you got Verlander and Dylan Cease going, so it shouldn't be that hard. Now, Houston is one of the best first inning run scoring teams in baseball this year, but their home road splits are incredibly dynamic. They are 42% first inning run score percentage at home, and they dropped to 27% on the road. I have very little concerns about Verlander and the White Sox soft hitting offense at this point in time, but Cease against Houston, with them being so bad on the road, this one should go down rather easily. I was surprised actually to see that the price wasn't a little bit heftier on this game. I thought it would be in the mid 130s. So I'm going to back the Nerfy here between Houston and Chicago. One more Nerfy that I'm also on, and the third one actually my play of the day. But Boston and Pittsburgh. Yeah. Anybody going to watch the Red Sox and Pirates? How about no? Mitch Keller goes for Pittsburgh. He's got 7 in a row to Nerfies in his last 7 starts. Now, Nick Pivetta goes for Boston. He has been bad when it comes to the Nerfie. He's been scored on in 4 of his last 6 starts in the first inning. However, Pittsburgh has the second lowest first inning run scored percentage in all of Major League Baseball this year. That should negate
Yeah.
Pivetta's bad starts. So at a favorable price of minus 118 here, we can back the Nerfie here as well. And I'll give you a quick one here, Lauren, because it's interesting how you can look at this. My play of the day, I'll dive deeper into it, Baltimore and Toronto at plus 108. But if you take the Nerfie for Houston, Chicago, Boston, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Toronto, and parlay it, all 3 of those play out plus 584. If you don't like the risks there, I certainly understand it. If you round robin it, which essentially means you only need to get 2 of those 3 correct, you're still getting plus 261. So you're getting better than 2.5 to 1 odds for 2 of these 3 to hit, which is something I really, really like in that spot if your book allows you to do it. I know FanDuel does if you can shop on FanDuel there. So 584, plus 584 for the parlay, for a round robin, plus 261. Great numbers here for these 3 Nerfies.
Yeah, I really do like that. The Nerfies yesterday went 7-6, and in the month of August, they're hitting at a 52.6% rate after having a really good July as
Dog
well. So
days.
interesting to see
Dog days.
how some of those things have been working out. You said no one's going to be watching the Red Sox Pirates game. There's one chick that will be, and her name is me, because I'm betting that game. I have the Red Sox money line at minus 136. It's game 1 of the series. Boston has won 3 of their last 4 games. They're coming off of a series win against the Yankees, and Nick Pivetta gets the start tonight. I know he hasn't necessarily had the best season for them. He's 8-9 on the season, 4.51 ERA, 1.33 WHIP over the last 129 2/3 innings pitched of this season. And the Pirates are just an absolute dumpster fire right now. Shit show. They lost 4 in a row. They lost their series against San Fran. Mitch Keller's on the bump, which I do like Mitch Keller. He's 4-8 on the season. Not his best year this year. 4.25 ERA, 1.41 WHIP on the season. But with Boston coming off of their series win against the Yankees, they're riding high. They're feeling the confidence. They're feeling the energy right now. And Pittsburgh has one of the worst records in the National League this season. I look at a guy like Nick Pivetta. He does need to tighten up because he's allowed 10 runs over his last 16 innings pitched. They were games against Atlanta and Milwaukee. Then you throw in KC in there, who is not the best team, but they are hitting pretty well. Mitch Keller, though, was only allowed 5 runs over his last 17 in the third innings pitched. I feel like the Red Sox are going to be able to hit him in this spot. And I'm still backing Boston coming off of a tough series. Energy is high. You saw that with the Braves against the Mets last night. They were able to come off of a good series against the Marlins. They come out last night and score 10 runs. I think Boston's going to be able to get it done. And only laying 36 cents for it, I feel pretty confident in that spot. But I talk about the Braves and the Mets for a second. You like the Mets team total over 4 here against Charlie Morton.
Yeah, bounce back spot here for the New York Mets after getting creamed last night, 13-1. Charlie Morton has faced the Mets twice this year. He's given up 5 runs in both of those starts. This is not a starter that throws his best stuff out there. I mean, here's the inconsistency of Charlie Morton. You ready for his last 5 starts? He gave up 5 runs, and he gave up no runs. Gave up 5 runs, then he gave up no runs, then he gave up 5 runs. So, including the last time out to the Mets. So, I just don't know that he's going to have enough here in the tank to be able to slow down this Mets offense. And even at that, I know the Braves bullpen is really, really strong, but you're going to get into that bullpen early. And anytime you do that, you're going to be asking for trouble against a lineup like the Mets that's really scrappy, that doesn't strike out a lot, that puts the bat on the ball. So with this number being 4, and this is where it was last night at even money, I can push this thing. It was a no-brainer. Mets will bounce back. They'll score tonight. They might not win the game, but they'll score at least 4.
Yeah, it is crazy. The Mets have won like 16 or 17 out of their last 20 games. They've been on an absolute tear. Well, the Yankees are kind of falling down a little bit. So the teams in the Big Apple making a little bit of a switch here in the final third run stretch of the season. I know both of us have some strikeout props, and then we're going to get into some NFL. I'll start first. I have Sean Manaea over 5.5, laying 26 cents for it. He's hit this total in 2 of his last 3 games. One of those 2 was against the Dodgers, which it's the Dodgers, needless to say. And he's now going up against the Marlins, who I watched extremely closely this weekend when they were taking on the Braves. They've been really, really bad, especially offensively. They punched out 10 times against Bryce Elder on Sunday, and then 8 times yesterday. They've averaged 9.33 strikeouts over their last 3 games, and they've been terrible against lefties. Manaea's in a good spot here. The Marlins are falling apart at the seams. They have a team WRC plus of 91, so he should go at least 6 innings pitched. I just need 1 strikeout an inning, and I feel good only laying 26 cents for it. You're laying 32 cents for yours. Still not too juicy, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's right at that threshold that I'd want to pay, but this is a bounce back spot again for Taijuan Walker, who the last time out against the Mets, as I mentioned earlier, gave up 8 runs in an inning plus of work. So he's going to take this one personally, and he will try to look to get his team, after losing bad last night, keep his team in the game and do so very effectively. And the biggest thing here is that the Braves, still the 3rd highest K rate in all of Major League Baseball, and they actually strike out more at home than they do on the road this year. So Taijuan Walker, a guy who's floated around that 4 or 5 K range for most of his starts. He's had some stretches where he went like 7, 9, and 10. But this is too high of a K rate team that he won't be able to take advantage of a very moderate number at 4.5.
Yeah, I really do like that. And I know both of our best bets of the day are both baseball plays. You have a nerfy, I have a strikeout prop. So we have that coming for you. Make sure to stick around. But now we're going to transition to NFL because preseason is here, regular season right around the corner. So we got Andrew Cooper, lead NFL analyst for Fantasy Alarm, to come on in, chat some AFC North player props. Yesterday we broke down to division and win totals. A lot of these teams are kind of riding at the same level right now. The AFC North division is extremely, extremely strong. We're going to talk about season-long player props today. Andrew, how are you? Happy Tuesday.
Good. How are you guys? I just got over, I got back from the FF Expo. Shout out to Bob Lung. He hosts a hell of a party, but man, this weekend beat me up between flag football, the mingling. Yeah, flag football. We were out there running at 100% catch rate, 2 targets, 2 catches. What's up, guys?
Oh, you love to see it. Zeno, that's for you. Zeno says I say you
Thank
love
you.
to see it too many times, but you do love to see
I
that.
said it's your phrase.
Come on
You
now.
go
Give
to
him a
it.
contract,
It's
people.
okay.
Give him a contract.
Sign me up. Sign me up. Yeah, I play for the name on the back of the jersey, so I'm available for to be signed to the best team next year. Yeah, that's right. I'm trying to get paid out here. Yeah, that's right.
Him and Jamar Chase, the best 1-2 punch in the nation now in the Bengals. It's okay. Okay, let's get into some AFC North player props. We always start these props with Red Hot Chili Proppers, which the Red Hot Chili Peppers were actually here in Atlanta the other day, so that was exciting. Red Hot Chili Proppers. Andrew, I'm going to give you a prop. You give me 15, 30 seconds if you think it should be over or under, kind of which way you're leaning in this spot. So we'll start with Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow and Joe Burrow. Over under 4,375.5 passing yards. How do we feel about the over or under in this spot?
So on this one, I like the over, and I typically bet unders. I feel like Vegas is kind of trying to trick us into betting overs most of the time, right? Like it's usually unders that hit. But in this one, you look at the other guys in that range, like Justin Herbert, Mahomes, even Brady. Those guys are all 4,500 to 4,600. The thing that scares me is the Bengals schedule, but not in the way you might think. I think it actually might be too easy. Steelers with the young QB, Watson not playing. They're going to play the Jets with no Wilson, Falcons, Panthers. That's what concerns me, because we did see last year at times Zach Taylor was willing to go away from the pass. When they beat the Raiders and the Steelers, they were throwing like 150, 190 yards. But I think the end of the season, where they get the Chiefs, Bucks, Pats, Bills, that should be plenty enough for him to finish strong like he did last year when he was throwing 400, 500 yards. So I think he does hit that over, because I consider him in the tier that those other guys are in. And I mean, even Derek Carr is set with a higher over under. So I like that one.
Yeah. I like that you said that their schedule is a little easier than you think, because as of win totals from last season, they have the 3rd hardest schedule in the NFL, which is crazy. So bring on the challenge, baby. I love it. Zeno, how do you feel about Burrow going over under his numbers?
I think the Bengals are primed for some regression, so I would lean under. I mean, this is a team, again, there is so much inflation around this team and how good they are. They were not a Super Bowl caliber team last year. They got on a hot run and got, dare I say it, guys, very lucky in the postseason. Shouldn't have beat the Raiders. Idiot kicker for Tennessee. Shouldn't have beat those guys either. And Patrick Mahomes had his worst playoff game of his career at home in Kansas City against the Bengals for them to get to the Super Bowl. They're not getting that kind of luck again this year. So I think they're primed for some aggression. I think they missed the playoffs too as well. So I lean under here.
Miss the playoffs? That's a bold prediction, Zeno.
Not really.
That's a bold
Super Bowl
prediction.
losers,
Not market
Super Bowl
it now.
losers
What's the date
historically
today?
don't do well.
Tuesday,
Super Bowl losers
August
historically
16th.
don't do well.
He's
Okay,
got a
write it
point.
down.
The
I
Super
know.
Bowl hangover is real for especially for the losers. So I mean, I
And
can see
especially
that.
for a
Yeah.
team that, again, didn't belong there. Like, they didn't belong in the Super Bowl. Like, objectively, they were not a Super Bowl caliber team, period. They're not even the best team in their own
Okay.
division.
Wow, that's a bold statement. August 16th at 10:21 a.m. Eastern time. Lock it in, baby. This is Zeno's prediction heading into the season. We're going to revisit this in about 6 months, Zeno, and we'll talk about
Okay.
what happened with this Bengals team. But let's shift it over to Najee Harris right now. Over under 1,600 and a half rushing plus receiving yards. Andrew, how do you feel about this one?
Yeah, so people out there, when they look at these lines, you have to realize what you're betting. You're not just betting that this player is going to be good, or even that the team is going to be good, but you're betting that this guy can stay healthy, right? Because when you look at guys that have both started and played all the games in their first couple of years in the league, there's very few of them. It's basically, Matt Forte, Alfred Morris started and played all the games. And I would include Jonathan Taylor too, just because the only game he missed was COVID. He didn't really get hurt. Beyond that, these guys are getting banged up. I mean, that's the position. That's why Sean Siegel invented zero RB, and a few of those guys didn't even start right away, like Nick Chubb, David Johnson. Only 6 guys started every game last year. So when I look at these lines, I'm not asking myself, can he have 1,600 yards in 17 games? I'm more thinking, can he have 1,600 yards in 13 games or 14 games? I need to look at these lines and think they're an absolute slam dunk, right? And for 1,600 yards, that's basically, 100 yards a game from scrimmage every single game. For me, I'm just not willing to go there, not with a team that has, a new QB. They're going to change the way they're doing things. To me, I think that you're betting on this guy at his ceiling. So, and if he gets hurt, you're toast. So I'm just not a fan of betting for these guys to essentially be one of the best running backs in the league for fantasy purposes. 1,600 yards, that puts you right up there. So I'm not going there with this one. I'm going under.
Yeah, I actually really agree with you on this one, Zeno. How do you feel about this?
I mean, if you divide this up, right, and as Andrew just said, you got to get 100 yards per game. You're not going to have an even split there, right? Most of this is going to be on the rushing side of the ledger. Now, Najee Harris rushed for 1,200 yards last year, so you'd have to think that theoretically, again, if he rushes for 1,100 yards, he's got to have 500 yards in passing. Is he going to get the opportunities in the passing game with a young quarterback or Mitch Trubisky and all the weapons that they put on wide receivers? Is he going to be part of the passing game? He only had 467 yards receiving last year. Not a lot. So he's going to have to up that number, and that's the harder one to up here, unless, of course, he's going to rush for 1,500 yards. But if you think that's the case, well, then, just bet his rushing prop.
Bingo. Yeah. And the other side of that is that he did play more than any other running back last year. It wasn't close, right? So you're talking about the production he had. The running back coach, Eddie Faulkner, already came out and said that, they used some sort of pseudoscience to figure this out, but he's saying that they need to give him 7 less snaps per game this year. I'm not sure. I would love to find out what exactly, what lab cooked that number up and why it's so specific. But the fact that they're already telling us they want to do it, and Najee came out and said, "Hey, they've told me they're going to use me less." That scares me for that. I mean, for the exact reason you're talking about, because who knows what those are going to be? Maybe they will be pass plays where they take him out and take those snaps away, and now you're not getting that number that you need.
Yeah, it is going to be interesting to see his usage moving forward this season and how he impacts the team in the way that he does. What about Rashad Bateman? Over under 800 and a half receiving yards, Andrew.
I'm so glad this one's on here because I wrote a full article on this guy already. And the short and sweet is that this, go to fantasyalarm.com, check it out. Look at Howard Bender. Check me down for a plug. All right. Yeah, there you go. Fantasyalarm.com, check it out. Wrote an article on Rashad Bateman, and the offense is so unique in how they use personnel groups. And that's what leads the top wide receiver and the top tight end to get such a highly consolidated target share. It's because they use so many second tight ends, use so many fullbacks. When Patrick Ricard is playing 50 to 60% of the snaps, yes, go back and look. He would play 80% of the snaps one game. When you bring in a fullback, you're not taking Mark Andrews out of the game. You're not taking J.K. Dobbins out of the game. You're taking wide receiver out every time. So if that guy's playing 80% of the snaps, you're maxing out at 2 wide receivers. And when you bring in Nick Boyle or whoever, now we're talking 1 wide receiver sets. That's why Marquise Brown was able to get 150 targets and, Mark Andrews obviously got his 150 targets. It highly consolidates the snaps among the guys that actually catch passes. So I think Rashad Bateman this year is in line to be that one wide receiver that plays a huge snap share. So I'm slamming the over. I'm drafting him in fantasy. I'm on the Bateman wagon for this year.
I'm gonna go check out your write up on that. I actually really like that and might tail you on that bet. Zeno, are you agreeing or are you disagreeing here?
Tough for me to back any passing prop in the Ravens offense. And the health of the wide receivers has always been a thing. The health of the quarterback now could be a thing as well. I mean, we have to, you're assuming this is Lamar Jackson playing all 17 games.
Which we're all
there's a lot of
hoping he does.
I listen, I don't disagree with the breakdown and the handicap of the Ravens offense, because what you said is factually correct about how they use their personnel grouping. So that is all true. For me, it's about, how many of those plays that were designed to go to Rashad Bateman does Lamar Jackson tuck it and run? How many times do we see that, he's covered and he has to go to a second read? I mean, there's just, it's tough. And we don't know what Rashad Bateman is in this offense yet to a certain extent. As the number one guy. And again, health is the biggest issue. For whatever reason, Ravens wide receivers can't stay healthy. I don't know whether it's practice or what, but they have not had a good track record of playing all 17 games.
It's probably, honestly, they're asked to block so heavily, right, in that scheme that,
Yeah.
It wears on you, man. Yeah, Willie Snead used to play like split guard for them, just blocking every play out there, not catching any balls. And I hear you on that. Greg Roman does not like to throw. Last year, he threw against his will, right? 9th in passing attempts. He usually likes to be 31st. So I could see that. I just think it's going to be consolidated where even if they throw less, 800 is not that much.
All right, we lost Lauren there for a quick second. So while she steps out, I'll step in. Let's go to one more here. Over under 1,050.5 rushing yards for Joe Mixon, Andrew.
Yeah. So for me, like this is kind of the opposite of the Najee one. And I love the point you made about betting just the lines. I prefer to bet just the rushing or just the receiving lines than betting those combined lines, because with those, like, you are really implying health, right? Like, you need it. With 1,000 rushing yards for Mixon, like, based on the usage, based on, they drafted Jonah Williams first round, Jackson Carman second round. They went out, got all these, they went out, La'el Collins, Ted Karras, Alex Capps. They fixed the line, supposedly. And I believe in their line coach, Frank Pollock. They went and got him back and everything too. So I think that with this one, Mixon should be able to hit that line in 13 games. I mean, there's no reason that they wouldn't run more. And I talked about some of the easy games they have on there. Last year, he hit 1,200 yards and he left 2 games. People forget he left the Jets game with an ankle. He left the Broncos game with an ankle. I think this line is one where, Vegas is basically banking on an injury, because I just see no world where he plays 17 games and doesn't hit that. I don't know what you think on that, Mark.
No, I mean,
guys,
look, I agree. Welcome back, Lauren.
Apparently,
I know you're here.
Decided to do a software reset in the middle of our show. How rude.
Well, I mean,
we didn't even notice. We just carried on.
There are things you can't control.
I'm kidding. We missed you.
I mean, you just took the most noticeable member of this show and said that you're not important.
Okay.
But
yeah, thank you. Pumping my tires a little bit. No, but can I jump in on this Joe Mixon? Because I actually bet this prop. I really like the over 1,050 rushing yards here. He was at his best last year. He started 16 games, career high in carries, yards, touchdowns, caught over 40 passes. And it was a great bounce back year for him after 2020 with his foot injury. He's reached this number in 3 of his last 4 seasons. He's coming off of his best year. The only reason he didn't reach it in 2020 was because he only played 6 games and he still had 428 yards. And now, guess what was one of the Bengals, I guess, Achilles' heels last year was their O-line. They made some huge improvements in the offseason. They added a guard, they added a center, they added a tackle, which I think should bode well because each one is a significant upgrade in terms of run blocking, especially La'el Collins, one of the best players in the league at that. And they were an absolute mess last season, and he still finished at 3rd in rushing yards, right? So I look at last year when he had 1,200 yards. If the line improves as much as we think, and Mixon continues to be the workhorse that he is, he's going to be going over this total, like you said, in 13, 14 games. And honestly, I would take an outside bet that he could rival anyone in the league for the rushing title. I'm thinking about sprinkling him for the most rushing yards in the NFL. And you also look at Chad Johnson, a legend for that team, that said if Mixon doesn't get 1,500 yards this season, he's going to stop eating McDonald's. And if you know anything about Chad Johnson, that was a staple of his diet when he was playing in the NFL. So he has to be confident that this guy is going to be putting up some big yards this year. I like Joe Mixon over 1050 and a half easily. I think, and this is the time to get it.
I love that you bring these. Oh, sorry, Mark.
Go ahead.
I just want to say real quick. I love that you bring in the pop culture like every time. Like last time, what it was the Ben Affleck, Jennifer Lopez corollary. This time it's the Chad Ochocinco McDonald's corollary. Like you're not going to get there anywhere else, folks. This is the only place where you get it.
All right. Seriously, well, if Lauren's favorite phrase is "you love to see it," mine is "here's the rub," and here's the rub on Joe Mixon eclipsing this total. There's two things. One, they have a very wide and talented running back room, whether Samaj P. Ryan's out there, Chris Evans, Travion Williams, they have a lot of experience in that running back room. And they put it there on purpose because Joe Mixon is so injury prone. But the real issue is will Zach Taylor get out over his skis and start to be his mentor in Sean McVay and try to throw his way through every single game instead of doing what they did last year, which was establish the run early in games and give him the requisite opportunities to make life easier on his quarterback. The improvements in the offensive line, guys, weren't for the running game. They were for the passing game. They were to protect Joe Burrow. So now the logic could be, because I've got guys who can protect Joe Burrow, well, I can drop back 35, 40 times a game on the regular. When you do that and you only get 60 plays, guess what? Joe Mixon's only getting 12 to 15 rushes a game, and he's got to average 4 yards a carry to get to above 60 to get over 1,000 yards. So it's a math problem for me with Joe Mixon in this spot. Not only a health problem, but a math problem, because you got to average about 65 yards a game if you want to get over 1,000 playing 16 games. Now with 17, that number comes down closer to 60, but still, it's one of those things where is he healthy enough, and will he get the number of carries needed to win or go over this rushing total rather?
I think that he will be, and I know they're bolstering their O-line, but they bolster their O-line and creating those gaps for a player like him to be able to do it.
I don't trust Zach Taylor. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Zach Taylor sucks as a head coach. Okay, it's been proven time and time again.
With the Samaj P. Ryan thing, I mean, they did use Samaj P. Ryan on pass downs, and they put him in the Super Bowl at the end of the game, and they lost the game because of it. So, I mean, maybe Zach Taylor's thinking about that when deciding which guy to get in the game. He came out and said, I probably should have put Joe back in there. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know there is some Chris Evans hype, though. I see what you're saying on that. Like, apparently, this guy's his pass catching chops are amazing. So, but here's the rub. I can feel it right here. I can feel it.
That here's the rub. But
some good points, man. Some good points there.
Yeah, what you love to see is when on, let's give a date, November 30th, Joe Mixon surpasses this total, and I get to rub it into Mark Zinno. How's that rub, Zinno? Okay, we're marking this down on August 16th. I'm writing it down.
If you want to make a bet right now. If you want to make a bet right now by November 30th, he does not eclipse this total, I'm willing to do that.
Lock it in. What's the bet?
Okay, lock it in. I'm going to lock it in.
That's through 12 weeks and 11 games because they have a bye week.
That's a little too early. My math.
No.
Let's give it mid-December. I say week 14. Week 14.
No. You all of a sudden now have just
moving the line.
Lost confidence in your own chops. So you said November 30th. That is the bet. Take it or leave it.
It's a season-long bet, not a 12-week bet.
Listen, you decided to bow up, okay? Put your chest out and puff on my downing of Joe Mixon and say he'll do it. But I can do that too. I got some of those. But it's not happening by week 12 in 11 games. He might not even be playing 11 games by this point in time. So
we'll see what happens, Zinno. We'll see. Okay, let's move on to
Write it down. Hey, August 16th, Lauren got out over her skis and spoke too much and all of a sudden put herself in a little bit of a hole. Okay, noted. Got it.
All right, Zeno. Yeah, make sure to write
You'll love
that
to see
down.
it.
Write that one down. We'll revisit it in a few months. Okay, let's guess it on Let's Bet It. I'm going to give you a player and the prop, and you tell me the number of what you think it is. So T. Higgins receiving touchdowns, over or under what, Andrew?
So these ones are never as high as you would think they are. I would say that for a guy like Higgins with his size and his profile, they would put this 6.5, maybe.
Zeno?
It's the exact number I had in my head, 6.5.
It's up one more than that. It is 7.5. So you guys both tie on that one. Here's for
Take
the
the
full
under.
winner. You win a lot of dignity and a little bit of applause and maybe a pat in the back, unless you're Mark Zeno. Lamar Jackson rushing yards, over, under. Andrew, what do you got?
Wow, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. It's got to be. I feel like it's got to be around 1,000 yards, right? Like that's what he does. I'm gonna go 1,000 even. I think Vegas is probably confident enough to say that he's 1,000-yard rusher.
Zeno?
850. 850.
Zeno, unfortunately, is the winner because it is set at 900.5 yards at this point. But 1,000, I really do like that. Both of you guys are close. Andrew, before we let you go, I know you have a prop on Deontay Johnson. I want to hear a little bit more about it.
Yeah, so I'm more of a fantasy football guy, and last time I was on here, I talked about using these because a lot of people that bet also play fantasy football, right? So you can use these lines to help you make your fantasy football plays, right? So I wrote an article on this type thing, but when you look at Deontay Johnson, he's set at 950 yards and 6.5 touchdowns, and he's going in like the 4th round. When you start going through and looking at other guys with similar lines, I mean, Vegas has Brandon Cooks at 950 yards and pretty much the similar touchdowns, and he's going multiple rounds later. Jerry Jeudy has the exact same lines, 950 and 6.5, and he's going 3 rounds later. So Vegas is kind of telling us they're not quite as confident in this player as the fantasy community is. So when you go through and look at those, you can kind of use that to arbitrate a little bit. Obviously you got to factor in receptions, things like that. But we've seen it time and time again. Last year, Vegas was right on Deebo Samuel, where they had Deebo higher than Brandon Ayuk with yardage total, and everyone was drafting Ayuk at. So I usually go through and comb through it at least just to see where there's some discrepancies. And with this one, they're not confident in Deontay Johnson. I'm not sure I'm as confident. I don't know about how you guys feel, whether he's truly quarterback proof or even if the quarterbacks are an upgrade, but it has me a little bit concerned for him for fantasy and maybe willing to bet the under on this guy.
Zeno, your thoughts?
Listen, it's interesting about looking at similar guys in yardage areas and where they're drafted in fantasy. I think there's a correlation there, obviously. Pittsburgh is too much until you get the quarterback figured out. It's hard to really say one way or another. I mean, honestly, like it's hard to draft anybody on the Steelers right now or bet on anybody on the Steelers until I know what the quarterback situation is going to be. And while I think both of these guys are comparable, and Vegas will tell you it might be a half-point difference between Mitch Trubisky and Kenny Pickett.
Yeah.
Like that's how little I think of Mitch Trubisky. But still, the offense will have a different flavor and a different tenor. And I would say that if you're drafting Trubisky, you might get more – there's a more risk reward with Pickett. He's more likely to take shots that Trubisky won't because he's young and he's full of what and vinegar and he's willing to go for the gusto. Whereas Trubisky's like, nah, that's probably not a pass I should make. I'll just throw this one away. So I have to wait and see what the quarterback situation looks like.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that one. It's going to be interesting moving forward to see how all these things play out. Andrew Cooper, thank you for coming on. Lead NFL analyst for Fantasy Alarm. We so appreciate your insight.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Always a blast to come on with you guys and, find out what you guys think. Because I walk away from this every time thinking something differently, like changing my takes because you guys, you're sharp and, you feel the rub.
Oh,
and,
Andrew.
And you got to change your
And
stuff
good
up.
luck
Cheers,
recovering from this past weekend. Get yourself some water, some liquid IV, and some sleep, okay?
I got a turf burn on my knee. Yeah, it's pretty rough. Maybe I'll have to go do an ice bath now.
He's on the IL, people. Put him on the IL. Okay, Zeno, before we get into our best bets of the day, let's go to Pickswise.com. Who do we have for the 3-star play of the day on the website?
You love to see it, Lauren. You love to see it. We got a couple of baseball picks out there from Chadwick Wetzel and 2 tennis picks on the site. So check out Pickswise.com. My best bet will be up later on today.
I like it. All right, Pickswise.com. Make sure to check it out. You love to see when we got 3-star play of the day. So let's get into our best bets of the day. I have a strikeout prop. You have a nerfy. I'll start with mine. Zach Plesac over 5.5 strikeouts at plus money, plus 110. I hate relying on a guy, Zeno, with a sub 20% strikeout rate to get strikeouts. But in this situation that's going on up in the north in Detroit, it's gross. They're a dumpster fire. And I hate to say that about my hometown team, but they are an absolute mess. And they're up to a 34% strikeout rate. Over the last 2 weeks, they saw Savali get 10 last night. Plesac just faced them and had 7 strikeouts in 6+ innings pitched. He's also hit this number in 2 of his last 3 games. Tigers are just so bad. Anyone that's a decent pitcher, even me maybe, has a chance of hitting a strikeout prop here. He has to make it at least 5 to 6 innings, but he's shown that he can do that. So this is more of a fade on the Tigers rather than a bet on Plesac. But I also don't mind betting on Plesac over 5.5. It seems low enough for how bad the Tigers have been. And getting it at plus money, plus 110. Lock it in, baby. All right, you're nerfy. What do you got for that?
I'm also on a plus money play of the day. Baltimore and Toronto at plus 108. Now, Baltimore starts Dean Kramer. He's 10-3 to the nerfy this year. He's roughed up a little bit, but he's managed to survive the first inning fairly well. Alex Manoah goes for the Jays, 19-3 to the nerfy this year, although last time out, he did give up a run in the first inning against the Orioles. So there is a little bit of payback here that we're hoping for, but you get 2 guys who have great nerfy records this year at plus money because both of these teams are starting to climb up the first inning scored percentage chart here in Major League Baseball. But I'm getting it at plus 108, Baltimore and Toronto, no run first inning.
Nerfy for the win. I was trying to come up with something that rhymed with nerfy and I couldn't think of it on the spot. Totally fine. That is it for us today, Zeno. Find us on the Pickswise YouTube channel. Go to Pickswise.com. Follow us on Twitter. Mock Zeno, Lauren Jabara. We'll see you tomorrow. Let's get it. Let's bet it.